Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show in the middle. I am your host, Justin Staten, and today I am going solo, and we are only 5 days out, guys, from the election. So if you haven't gotten out and done any early voting yet, make sure that you get your booty to the polls. You've got only 5 more days. Actually, we don't have 5 days because we have the weekend coming up. So it's 5 days until Tuesday, but you have less than 5 days to vote. So make sure you are getting out there and making your voice heard. I got up bright and squirrely this morning because I wanted to do this show, get the show done, get it out. Because I have a couple things to say, but something at the end that I have that is very important that I want to say. And we'll get to that. So, but before I get into all of that, what we're also going to talk about, let me back up. We're also going to talk about how Trump is the official troll master. There's no taking that away from him. And I want you out there to know, like the people, he's not trolling you. Like if you're a Democrat or a left-leaning, he is trolling the media. He is trolling Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the establishment. That's who he is trolling because that is who is constantly attacking him. So if you think he's trolling you, you are wrong. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit today. The GDP numbers that came out, totally fake. I'm going to get into that, tell you why I think they're wrong and why I think they're going to be revised down and why you really shouldn't even take them at face value. I mean, you take it at face value, but you should not believe them because they're a joke. And I'm going to show you why in just a few minutes. And then I'm going to give you the thing I'm going to talk to you about at the end. The reason I got up bright and squirrely, the reason I've already downed, I think, 4 cups of coffee is because I'm going to give you my closing argument in this year's election. Being 5 days out, I'm going to go ahead and give you my closing arguments on what I think. But before we get into all of that, I just want to give you guys a quick reminder. The book for the best illusion ever performed is out on Amazon.com. You can go over there and pick up a copy. It would mean the world to me. It's a good read. I mean, you can finish it in a weekend. It will pretty much pull the veil open of all the systems in America that we hold near and dear to our heart that have been completely manipulated by the few, the elitist in DC at the expense of the many, all of us, the U.S. citizens. And it's not a partisan book. It wasn't written for Republicans or Democrats. It wasn't written for liberals or conservatives. It was written for the American people. So go out and pick up a copy if you haven't already over on Amazon.com. If you want a signed copy, you can go to my website, justinstaten.com, and pick up a copy there. For all of you over on Apple and Spotify, thank you guys so much. I see the downloads, but what I'm not seeing is you guys subscribing and leaving ratings and reviews. I appreciate you guys coming back every day and listening to the show, but make sure to take 5-10 seconds out and just scroll all the way down to the bottom of the show and leave that rating and review because one, you'll tell me your feedback and tell me how you want the show to be better. And number 2, it'll help push the show up in the algorithm so that more people can find it organically. So it would mean the world to me. I'd appreciate it. Thank you. And then for all of you guys over on TikTok, man, thank you guys. I've literally only been trying to grow TikTok for a week? I think it's been 2 weeks. And we're already getting hundreds of thousands of views over there. We've gotten hundreds of thousands of views, thousands of comments. Follower count is growing by the day. I think I started with maybe 1,000 followers over there. And just within 5 short days, I think we're almost to 3,000. I think we'll be at 10,000 by, I hope we're at 10,000 by the end of next week. We'll see. Maybe that's a little egregious and maybe, I don't know. But my point is thank you. Thank you for everybody over on TikTok. And if you guys aren't following me on TikTok, go over to TikTok, follow me because that's where all the shorts get posted from the show. And check it out over there on TikTok. All right. Well, I just took out my Pinch a Chew and which I'm going to stop mentioning the brand that I use because somebody told me, hey, you're just giving them free advertising. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I probably am. And I probably shouldn't be doing that. So But I just took it out. I am going to take a couple more swigs of coffee. I won't even tell you which coffee brand I'm drinking because apparently that's free advertising too. But hey, if you want to throw some advertising dollars in on the show, which I don't know if anybody actually does, give me a call. I won't mind mentioning your brand of coffee if it's what I drink. And the chew that I chew, I wouldn't mind because that's what I chew. But anyway, hope you guys are ready to go. I'm going to try to keep this show as compact as possible today. I spent the last 2 days at a conference over in Springfield, Ohio, which of course you guys know has been in the news this election cycle. And a lot of fortunate things came out of that and a lot of unfortunate things came out of that. But I was over there for 2 days at a conference about campgrounds and campground owners. And it was really nice. It was really cool to connect with other people who own campgrounds. I own a couple campgrounds in a real estate portfolio. That is what I do for a full-time job. Because I'm sure many of you understand that I don't do this as a full-time job. I would like to. I mean, this is fun. I enjoy doing the show every day. I enjoy opining on my beliefs and what I think's going on, and bringing political commentary out there. And I know a lot of you guys over on TikTok love the shorts, love how like quick and hitting it is, because hundreds of thousands of views later don't lie. So, but I was over there in Springfield, had a couple days, and I missed the show yesterday. I had one in the queue, and I didn't post it, and I apologize. So, because of that hiccup on my part, that show will probably air on the weekend. So it'll probably come out on Saturday or Sunday so that you guys have something to listen to. All right. Once again, I had to cough. But anyway, guys, let's get into it. So Trump is 100% at this point the troll master. I mean, and I don't even know if that's like, I don't know if there's an award for that or what, but I think he officially gets the label as troll master. I mean, after he did the McDonald's thing, and I want to be clear. I said it at the top of the show or this episode, but I want to be clear. I because there's so many of you out there on the left, liberals, who are still totally mind effed by the media. And that's truly what it is. You're manipulated. You're lied to. It is. And that'll be part of my closing argument today. So stick around for that. You're not going to want to miss the closing argument today. But you guys are completely, for those of you that are on the left, Trump is not trolling you. And like, you really have to understand this. And if you weren't lied to every day, if you weren't manipulated every day by the media, you would know this. You would understand the context of what he's doing, why he's doing this, and which way he's doing this. His supporters understand this. Why do they understand this? Because they're tuned in. They're paying attention. They pay attention to everything he says, his campaign says. They understand what Trump is doing. And so I just want to make it clear that he is the troll master, but I want you to know where the trolling is directed. And it is 1,000%. And if you took time away from MSNBC and CNN, nothing but left-wing propaganda outlets, it is just the truth. There's no debating this point. And again, I'm going to talk about it here in a little bit. But if you just turned that off for a minute and watched and paid attention, you would see why Trump does what he does, because he tells you. Like, you just don't get to hear it because you're tuning in to outlets that don't want you to hear it. But for those that do pay attention and do want to hear it, they understand that when he goes to McDonald's and puts the apron on, the media came out and said, "Oh, he didn't really work a shift at McDonald's. He didn't really." Yes, we know that. Why do we know that? Because we know Trump. We know why he's doing it. We know why he's doing it because he tells us why he's doing it. And it was 100% to troll Kamala Harris. Why? Because she said she used to work at McDonald's when there is no evidence, and the media is not digging this up. They were trying to over on Twitter. If you guys are over on Twitter, there was a lot of independent journalists and journalists out there going, can anybody find this? If whether or not she actually worked at McDonald's, because they were in a fever pitch to try to get proof that she actually worked at McDonald's, which she never has. And Trump knew that. There was no evidence And when it became absolutely clear that there was no evidence that Kamala Harris ever worked at McDonald's, Trump trolled her. Not her supporters, not her people, her campaign, the left, the Democrats, the establishment, and the media, because they are the ones that are constantly on the offensive and on the attack with Trump. And that needs to be said, because it's not said, at least not in a way that you guys are getting a chance to hear it. But I need you to know, if you're on the left, if you're more liberal leaning, if you're a Democrat and you're against Trump, I need you to know, because it matters and the context matters, he's not trolling you. He's not trolling your support of Harris. He is trolling her and the media establishment and the DC establishment. That's what he's doing. So then when Joe Biden comes out and says, the only garbage I see floating around out there is his supporters, which there was no apostrophe. Let's just be real about it. The media is out there trying to do as much damage control because, again, they're just nothing more than an extension of that party and that ideology. They're out there, smokescreen, damage control, but you can't. The video is the video. The video is the video. And this is the track record of the media, especially since 2016 or late 2015, early 2016. This has been, or early 2015, I should say, into 2016. This has been the media's playbook. And so you can't mistake what he says. It is very clear. He wasn't stuttering. He wasn't stammering. He even had a panelist out on CNN saying, "Oh, I had a stutter growing up." And that was clearly a stutter. It's not a stutter. It's not a stutter. These guys get so used to spewing out this hateful rhetoric. It's natural. It just comes out. And I really believe, and I'm going to get into it here in a minute, that he meant it. They mean it. They mean it. And Trump knows that they do, because they genuinely despise. They've been telling you since Hillary Clinton and Obama. They've been telling you how much they despise half of the American people. They despise anybody who doesn't agree with them. How do you know? Because just look at the supporters on that side. Just take a stroll through memory lane on social media and you will see the hate. And for those of you on the left and those of you doling out that hate, I get why you do it, because you've been manipulated to believe these hateful things, because that is all that is pumped into your brain on a daily basis, no matter which outlet you turn on, NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, any of them, CNN, can't leave out the Clinton News Network there. All of them tell you the same things. They usually literally use the same language. Their chyrons look the exact same. I mean, when Trump was doing his Madison Square Garden rally, I had the 4 panel up on the TV with all the different news outlets, and CNN, MSNBC, they both had the same chyron. Oh, the dark rhetoric out of Trump's Nazi-esque Madison Square Garden rally. They say the same thing. They use the same talking points. They're a unified front. It's way less like a news outlet, and they seem more like a PR firm. Have you ever seen a PR firm go out and do damage control, where they get the messaging exactly the same across all the media outlets? That's what the media outlets are. That's what they've been. So when Trump hears Biden say that, oh, they're all garbage, he's going to troll them. And man, did he did in a major way. And I was shocked when I saw the video of him actually out on stage wearing that orange vest. That blew me away. I was like, holy shit. He actually wore it out on stage. This guy has no limits to his troll. And I know he was trolling the Biden administration and Harris and their campaign, but man, it also served a purpose in saying, hey, I can relate to you guys, the common person, the common man, and here I am in this, and he didn't want to wear it out there. And he was honest about, I didn't want to wear it out there. And then he told a joke about how, but my staff said I'd look thinner if I wore it. And so I wore it out here. And it was he connected on a genuine level with the people at that rally and the people from watching from home, all because he wants you to see how ridiculous the other side is, because they are. They are. And I'm going to get into that today in my closing statement. But I think it's safe to say at this point that Trump is the troll master. Like, win or lose doesn't really matter at this point. Like, people will rewrite how to campaign based off of the way he has handled his campaign in the last 2-3 weeks of this election. They will rewrite how to connect with voters on the campaign trail, I think. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Just give me a comment and let me know what it is that you're thinking. But I think they're going to have to rewrite it. I want to get into these real quick because I want to get to my closing argument for this year's election, because it'll probably take me a couple minutes to get through it. But I want to get into these GDP numbers that came out. And for those of you listening, you won't see this. I just pulled up the website where this was released, right? And this is the department, or the BEA, sorry. And you know, I don't know how to say it. Sorry, Bureau of Economic Analysis. It scrolled down to the bottom there. There you go. So this is right from the government's website. So for those of you watching who think, where are you getting this data from? Where are you getting this nonsense from? Blah, 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 blah. Right from the government, because I get that all the time. When these videos go out and get chopped up into shorts and they get put out TikTok, half of the comments are like, well, where are you even getting this information from? From the source, right? Which is where I encourage you guys to go when you're trying to do research and figure out, like, how do you really think and feel about a certain topic that is being puppeted out in the mainstream media. So I saw this come out, and immediately the initial reaction I had when I saw these GDP numbers come out, because they talked about it on the news, and the headline was, well, I mean, this is relatively good news for the Democrats and Kamala Harris's campaign, because GDP increased in the third quarter at an annual rate of 2.8%, which, when you're looking at GDP growth, that's not too bad. But immediately I was like, well, why now? Why 6 days out from the election are they releasing this data? I call two reasons. One, it's 6 days out from the election. Two, I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm daily working in this economy, right? I completely 110% rely on this economy to make money. Like, I need the economy to be good, because half of the people that I work with are either tenants in units in apartment buildings or housing, or they're campground guests and visitors, and I need the economy to be good, because if the economy is good, then they can afford to not only live and pay rent, but they can afford to come and camp at our campgrounds and buy stuff in the stores, et cetera, et cetera. So I rely heavily on good economies to make sure that my company, my business, and my team stay afloat, right? So I'm in it. I'm in it every day. And when they came out and said there was actual growth in the economy, and I'm looking at all the business ventures that I am a part of, I'm going, how? How is this? Because this is not what I'm seeing on the ground. This is not what I am seeing happening. There are certain areas of the economy, I think, that are doing quite better, a little bit better than others. But broad-based, I don't see how this is growth. So immediately my reaction was, I think this is garbage. And the reason that I was like, I think this is garbage, is because everything else that this administration has put out has been revised down. The job numbers they put out, 2 months later, a month later, they revised the numbers down. They crime. They said, and they even fact checked Trump live on the debate and said, crime is actually down. The FBI says crime is down. Well, we all know we can't trust the higher echelons of the FBI. And frankly, we can't trust the higher echelons of any of these departments, because they lie, because they have also become partisan and political. And we've had two big ones already, the jobs numbers and then crime, both had to be revised, because the job numbers were actually down and crime was actually up. And so when I saw this GDP figure, and I'm like, really? We grew year over year from last year's third quarter, 2.8%, almost 3%. Why doesn't it seem like we've grown 2.8% in the actual economy in which I live and work? Doesn't make any sense. So I went to the source, run over to BEA, I pulled it up, and the second paragraph says the GDP estimate released today is based on source data that are incomplete or subject to further revision by the source agency. And there are several agencies that provide data for this GDP report. So it's not just, the Bureau of Economic Analysis. There are several other agencies in the government that supply the data. And there are bureaucrats at the head of every single one of those agencies. And we already know, because we see it all the time now, that the heads of those agencies all have a political skew. And they want nothing more than to get Kamala Harris elected. So they will put out padded, false data. This is not hearsay. This is not misinformation. I'm pulling it right from the government website. So before any of you out there say that this is not accurate or misinformation, go check my sources. And I'm going to start doing like Dominion does. For those of you that say I'm just doing misinformation or election misinformation or anything, I'm going to just sue you for libel. That I'm just going to pull Dominion's playbook. I'm just going to sue you. Why not? I'll just start suing people for libel. Because if we're going to play the game, let's play the game. I'm going right to the source documentation, as should you. Now, here's why I think this is bullcrap. So it already says this is an estimate only, but yet it's all over the headlines. It already says it's subject to further revision, which we've seen other data being revised down. Jobs, crime was revised up. They said it was down. It wasn't. It was actually up. And they say in the second paragraph of this GDP report that they were hoping would be a boost to Harris's campaign. Let's just be honest. That's the optics here, right? And you'll see it, I'm sure, all over MSNBC, CBS, ABC, NBC, and CNN. If you haven't already, you will, because they're going to see, oh, no, look, the economy is growing. Bidenomics is working. No, it's not. And I'm going to show you. I am going to show you why I'm saying this. So that was the second paragraph, right? Then you get down into the meat and potatoes, and there's an actual data graph that you can pull up. It's like an Excel sheet that you can pull up at the bottom of this website and get into where these numbers are coming from. But you don't have to dig too deep, because literally they tell you right here. The increase in real GDP primarily reflected increases in consumer spending at exports and federal government spending. Okay. So consumer spending, exports, and federal government spending. And this is where I'm going to call bullcrap, right? But let's go to the next paragraph, because it says the increase in consumer spending reflected increases in both goods and services. Within goods, the leading contributors were and this is key, guys, the leading contributors to goods being sold on consumer spending was non-durable goods, led by prescription drugs. Prescription drugs. Now, hold that in your head for just a second. So it was led by prescription drugs. And if you go in and pull up the chart, you'll see how much we spent on prescription drugs. Now, on the services side, because it's goods and services, the leading contributors were healthcare. Healthcare. So hold that thought. And then the second category on goods was motor vehicles and parts. And then as well as food services and accommodations on the service side coming in under healthcare spending. Okay. Now, this is all on consumer spending. So what led the charge? Consumer spending, government spending. Okay. Federal government spending. All right. So let's talk about this for a second. We know that the government, through the Inflation Reduction Act and all the garbage, and I'm being very polite by using the word garbage, that was passed in the last 3.5 years, was trillions of dollars of spending. We sent $800 billion or more to Ukraine. We've sent billions to the Middle East. We've spent and spent and spent. And all of that spending, guys, gets attributed to GDP. But here's the problem, right? And I'm sure those, rookie economists out there are probably going, well, yeah, of course, Justin. What's the big deal here, right? There's no there. That's GDP. Yes, like the government spends money, buys goods and services, and it gets, it goes to GDP. So what? I don't understand. Here's the problem. How much of that money have we had to borrow? Because, guys, in there lies the problem. It's not that the government buying goods and services because it needs to function is a bad thing. But when you are buying that stuff with borrowed money, more IOUs that you're signing the American people to, it's not genuine productivity. It's the irony of the debt-driven GDP issue. Is that you are literally taking dollars that are debt that have to be repaid back and contributing it to GDP. And how much does government spending make up of GDP? 24% of all GDP in the United States is government spending. How much money does the government spend? I don't know. We run a $3 trillion to $4 trillion deficit every year. So how much of that is debt? A third, roughly. And how can you say that you have genuine productivity in a country when the vast majority of it is based off of government debt spending? And it gets worse because I mentioned the consumer spending part too, right? So it said that consumer spending was led by, do you guys remember? Non-durable goods led by prescription drugs. But here's the kicker there. And then the services, what led services? Healthcare, outpatient services. But here's the problem. How many people have insurance? Most of us, right? Thanks to Obamacare, right? That is such an amazing tool. We all had to buy overpriced health insurance plans, right? So every time you go buy your prescription drugs or you go to your doctor's office and go to a doctor's visit, physicals, all the stuff, all outpatient services, right? So not an inpatient in the hospital service, right? Which is the vast majority of hospital services. Who picks up the tab? The insurance companies do. Medicaid does. Medicare does, right? So what led the charge? It was insurance spending. But here's the thing, for GDP calculations, consumer spending, when the insurance company pays for your prescription drugs, when the insurance company pays your doctor's bill, they count that towards consumer spending. And you're probably still thinking, okay, Justin, what's wrong with that though? Because money is being spent, services are being used. So what's wrong with including that in GDP? Here's the problem. You're not actually taking the money out of your pocket. That's the problem. You know, the other category that is leading in GDP calculation is consumer finance. So all these banks that put you in auto loans and credit cards and all this stuff that charge you interest every month is a huge percentage of that GDP calculation. And what have we seen over the last 2 years, 3 years, through almost 3.5 years now? We've seen an incredible rise in credit card debt, consumer debt in this country. So all that to say, and I'm going to try to bring it full circle here. Wrap your mind around this for 1 second. So you're telling me that the economy is growing, but what you're not telling me is how it's growing and what is the fuel that is growing it. Because the economy that is successful and will do well and make everyone prosperous is an economy that has genuine production. Genuine production. We're actually producing the goods and services, and we can actually afford to take the money out of our pocket and pay for it, not using credit cards, but because we actually have the money to pay for it. But when you look at our GDP numbers, it is fueled by borrowing in debt, all of which needs to be paid back at some point. Credit card debt is at all-time highs. Consumer debt is at all-time highs. And then the flip side of that, the counter argument that people try to tell you is, yeah, but But Justin, asset values have also gone up. But okay, sure, because of inflation. The only reason asset values are higher, guys, is because of inflation, inflationary spending, which again is borrowing, which again is going to come due. And just like we saw in 2008, asset values can go down. It's a house of cards. It is 100% a house of cards. Because the thing right now that is driving the GDP number of 2.8% is government spending, consumer spending, which is actually insurance companies spending money on your behalf, right? Yes, you pay your premium payments, but they pay the doctor. They pay for the prescription drugs. You may have a copay, but they're the ones writing the check. You're not actually taking any more than your copay out of your pocket. So guys, when you aren't spending your actual real dollars, dollars you own, not borrowed dollars, dollars you own, and the only thing that is fueling it is borrowing not only from you and us, the consumers, but from the government. Guys, it is a house of cards where one easy flick bumper breeze will blow it over. These numbers, guys, I don't have faith in a 2.8 GDP growth. I really don't. And guess what? It says right here in that second paragraph, the estimate for the third quarter, the second estimate for the third quarter, with more complete source data, won't be released until November 27th. So right now, they just want you to get high on their own supply, right? Oh, hey, the economy's growing 2.8%, but it's an estimate. And, it's based off of incomplete data. It could be revised, but we won't have the second estimate based on more complete data until November 27th. But what do we do know? We do know that healthcare costs are out of control. Insurance companies are failing. If you guys haven't figured that one out yet, it's coming. They are struggling to keep up, mainly due to, litigious nature of our society and Obamacare, which does need to be fixed. I'm not saying get rid of being denied for pre-existing health conditions and things like that, because there were elements of that were really good. But as a whole, it disincentivized actually creating an open market where plans were affordable, right? It disincentivized actually good healthcare. And that was the, I think, unintended results, but that's what's happened. So it needs to be fixed. But this GDP, guys, when it is based off of somebody else spending the money, the government borrowing it, you borrowing it from the bank on your credit cards, personal loans, taking out home equity lines of credit, which have also grown. That's not genuine production. That's not genuine spending. That is borrowed money that is fueling a house of cards that is at any moment, one calamity could collapse. So mark my words, these numbers were just thrown out there, not legit. They're just estimates based off of incomplete data. They will be revised down, but you won't see it until November 27th. Because the economy I'm living in, the economy I'm pretty sure all of you guys are living in, doesn't feel like a growth economy. Most of us, unless you're 18, 24, 25, we know what it's like to live in a growing and growth-driven economy where genuine production and genuine spending, where I'm taking the dineros out of my own pocket, not borrowing them from the bank to buy things. We all know what that feels like. We know what a growth economy feels like, looks like. We've lived it. Shit, we lived it under Trump just 4 years ago. We know what it feels like. This doesn't feel like it. So mark my words. Not only are we feeling any of this growth, and I think this growth number goes down. I think it will be revised down. I don't think we grew by 2.8%. I really don't. But not only do I don't think it's genuine growth, because it's not genuine production and genuine spending, it's all on these house of card, government spending, debt spending. It's ridiculous. It's just borrowed money spending all the time. It's unsustainable. It's going to blow over. But I think it's going to be revised down. 100% think it's going to come down. And you're not going to see it until November 27th. After the election's over, after the dust settles, and there'll probably be, fights going on in the court systems because neither side will concede that they lost the election. And this will just get swept under the rug and it won't make a major headline. It won't make news, but it's a bigger problem. And I talked about this on a previous episode because, guys, I do think our economy is in trouble. I think it's in trouble. I don't think it's healthy. It's completely unhealthy. It is driven by debt, spending. Our government makes up 24, almost 25% of GDP. And we know they're borrowing. I mean, we're up to 36 trillion of debt. We know that they're borrowing to do the spending. It is unsustainable. And our economy is in trouble, which makes the decisions that we make on Tuesday that much more important. Because there are two definitive choices come Tuesday. I mean, it's not just about picking a side. It's about choosing the future of what we want for this country. And that leads me into making my case for Donald Trump. I've made no bones about it that I support Donald Trump. And today I'm going to make my final argument and my final case here on the episode. And then we'll see where the cards fall on Tuesday. But today I'm going to make that case for why I think Donald Trump is the only real choice if we want to preserve freedom, prosperity, and our voice as Americans. This is in my 43 years I've been here. I can't even tell you how many elections I've voted in. It's been several now. And guys, I for the first time, I think we're standing at a turning point right here. One path will take us to my point about this GDP number, where I think the economy really is. One path will take us deeper into federal control, endless spending, a crap economy that I think implodes in the first year of a Harris presidency. I genuinely believe that. One path takes us deeper into censorship, deeper into a one-party system, because they have already said they will eliminate the filibuster and they will pack the Supreme Court. Guys, you'll never have an election with two parties or three parties or independents ever again. You will only get the Democrat Party control. I believe this. Why do I believe it? Because they've told us that's what they want. And when they tell you something, you should believe them. And I think the thing that bothers me the most about the whole, so let me just start with my issue with the left, the Democrats, in this closing argument for this campaign. It's the left's hypocrisy and elitism. It drives me crazy. Like the hypocrisy of everything they say and the elite condescension that they use to say it, I know is chapping my ass and everybody out there's ass. They are officially the party of hypocrisy and elitist condescension. They tell you their campaign is all about unity and joy. Unity and joy, yet they call Trump Hitler, fascist, dictator, and his supporters garbage. And it's not just Trump that they are calling these things. Tim Walz said that the rally in Madison Square Gardens emulated a 1930s Nazi march. So if you're saying Trump is Hitler and it emulated the Nazi rally in the 1930s, then you are also saying that everybody in attendance at that campaign rally is also a Nazi. You had people on CNN and MSNBC saying it was nothing more than a white nationalist movement. So every person in New York City that showed up to that rally, they're saying are white nationalists. There were black people, Asians. I watched an interview with a Japanese gentleman minutes before walking into that rally. Puerto Ricans were there. Puerto Ricans weren't even offended by the comedian, a comedian's joke, which we all know how comedians feel about the woke left. They hate it because it's ruining comedy. So if you're a comedian out there, the choice is clear. You have to vote for Donald Trump. But the media and the left, they're telling you it's all about unity and joy. Well, what joy is there in having this constant hateful rhetoric? What unity is it to tell half the country they're garbage, they're racist, they're Nazis, white supremacists? How is that unity? It's the party of hypocrisy. And it's not just at Trump. They lump everyone into it, everyone that supports him. And how do you know this is true? Because just like I said earlier, just open up a social media app and look at the comments of people who support Trump openly and honestly. Look at the hate. It's literally word for word the same drivel and garbage that you see from the mainstream media. Because these people are manipulated to believe every single one of these things is true. Hypocrisy. Women's rights. They keep telling you, if you vote for Trump, you're going to lose your rights as a woman. National ban on abortion, even though he has said very plainly and very clearly that's not the case. He couldn't even do it if he wanted to. How is Trump, the president of the United States, going to put a national abortion ban out there? You would need the legislature to do that. And the Supreme Court has already said, we don't have a dog in the fight at the federal level. Send it back to the states. So anyone in the federal government doesn't have a dog in the fight. And there is not a chance in hell. And this is the part that the mainstream media, because they need some issue to fire you up. They need some issue to emotionally manipulate you, because it's not a party of unity and joy. It's a party of hate and separation and division. And they need an issue to fire you up, to get you out to vote. That's all it is. So they tell you you're going to lose your rights if you're a woman, and it's bullshit, because there ain't nobody that's going to take that up in Congress, because the Supreme Court's already decided in the Dobbs decision that it is up to the states to decide. It's a lie. But that's not even the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy is that they tell you that you're going to lose your rights as a woman, but they can't even tell you what a woman is. How in the hell can you protect something you refuse? You absolutely refuse to define. How can you protect something you refuse to define? That's the hypocrisy of the left and this craziness on that side. They're out there telling you now that they believe in the American dream and they're going to turn the page and have an opportunity economy, but they allow 30 million illegal people to just come across the border in less than 3 years. Hypocrisy. If you cared about the American dream and having an opportunity economy, you wouldn't saturate that economy with 30 more million people draining the resources of the American people and taking jobs from people that desperately need them in a time of high inflation that they can't even afford to put gas in their car, you hypocrites. You're the party of hypocrisy. Drives me crazy. Selective outrage. They say if Trump's elected, he's going to prosecute all of his political opponents. What have you been doing for the last 4 years, you hypocrites? Prosecution after prosecution. And you didn't just go after Trump, you went after his supporters too, because there are still several of them sitting in jail to this day, you hypocrites. They are the party of hypocrisy. And the sooner Americans wake up and see it, the sooner we can fix this and it all change for the better, for good. And you want to talk about dark rhetoric. They get on TV and say, look at the dark rhetoric coming from Trump. But it's nonstop every single day. He's Hitler, he's Mussolini, he's going to be a dictator. It's not just coming from the experts in the media. It's coming from Harris, from Walz, from Biden, from Obama. Every rally, you've got celebrities coming out there telling you how they just know that he is all these things. And you can't. But isn't it funny how circa 2015, everybody loved him? All these same people love Donald Trump. Isn't that funny how that works? They're the only ones with the dark rhetoric. Hitler, Mussolini, and then putting everyone that shows up at a rally and if you went to a Trump rally, you would know. They just love America. All Americans and everybody who has shown up and opened their eyes, they see it. And they turned off the TV. They turned off the propaganda arm of the mainstream media because they lie. They cover it up. It's all been a coordinated attack. So as part of this closing argument, let me just tell you about the media's role in all of this. Because they are nothing more than a propaganda arm of the mainstream media. Nothing more. The media has literally been the communication arm of the left and the Democrats. There are 6 TV news outlets and over a dozen major newspapers that do wall-to-wall hit pieces on Trump. Yet there are only 2 channels and roughly 1 major newspaper that try to back up Trump or even remotely try to give some fair or balanced view of what's going on with the 2 candidates. 6-2. And yet what's crazy is the coordinated messaging of the 6 and the newspapers. How do you know it's coordinated? They all say the same thing. They use the exact same words, the exact same talking points, the same outrage. Just like when Tony Hinchcliffe said about the pile of garbage and it's called Puerto Rico, he's a effing comedian. It's what he does. Oh, they feigned outrage. Oh, the word garbage is offensive. It's so offensive. But then when Biden says it, oh, nope, there was an apostrophe there. You hypocrites. You're all effing hypocrites. And you're blatant about it. It's all the same. Even the Chiron or whatever that thing is called down at the bottom of the screen. I think it's called the Chiron, whatever. It's always the same. It doesn't matter if you're on MSNBC, CBS, CNN. It's the exact same. It's like they all get the same email every morning. And this is what we're talking about. This is what we're outraged about because it doesn't matter which channel you turn to. It is a coordinated message in the media every single time. 6-1. 6-1. It's crazy. You think more outlets covering Trump is bad. That's what they try to get you to believe. Well, but if there's 6 covering Trump, then it has to be true. But you fail to take into consideration their clear and outwardly stated bias. They've told you they don't support him. They've told you they don't support him. They told you he's a threat to democracy. So, of course, they're biased, but you still believe because more of them say he's bad than good, it has to be true. You know, that's like corporations, going into, it's like when Walmart came into every town and knocked out every small business, right? The big guys, the coordinated money machines can pick on the little guy and push him out. And you guys weren't okay with that back during Occupy Wall Street, the 99%, the 1%. You guys remember that? It's the same thing. You've got the corporate media all piling on one person, and you think they're the arbiters of the truth? You hypocrites. The elitist condescension in that is palpable. Hypocrites. It's hypocrisy. Not only that, but how many years have they ignored? Perfect example, Biden's racism. Biden's blatant racism that he has had for years. Speaking of hypocrisy. And the media covered it up for years, his blatant racism. I mean, let's just go back and look at some of the racist shit Biden said on camera. You can't find, except for the good people or fine people on both sides hoax that the media likes to chop up into a 5-second clip and spew for years. You can't find videos of Trump saying blatantly racist shit all the time, but you can with Biden. How about the corn pop story? Poor kids are just as bright as white kids. And if you ain't voting for me, you ain't black. They're going to put you back in chains. I don't want my kids growing up in a racial jungle. All Joe Biden quotes. And when he was talking about the racial jungle thing was segregation and busing for segregation, which he didn't support. And the media covered it up. It's there. The video is there. It's blatant. Why would they call one person racist and cover up the other person's racism, guys? It's hypocrisy. They are the party of hypocrisy and elitist condescension because they're hypocritical and they give you hypocritical arguments and then they condescend you and gaslight you when you call bullshit. But you're going to vote for them? That's what you want to support. Can't go into a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts anymore without encountering somebody with an Indian accent. Joe Biden, quote, when Obama decided to run, he said, oh, he's actually an articulate and clean person of color. Joe Biden is a blatantly racist human being and the media has covered it up. But yet they spend hours saying Trump is racist. Trump dated a black woman. How's that for racism? Yeah, they call him a misogynist, but yet he is always, even back when it was not popular to do so and there was misogynism going on at large, Trump hired women at record numbers in his companies. But the media doesn't, they knew that before 2015. That's why everybody loved Trump. Trump was just a good dude. Yeah, he made mistakes. He didn't always win. Not every business was successful, but he always tried to do the right thing by his community. And they loved him for it until 2015. Hypocrisy. It's the party of hypocrisy. So now that we've established that, let me jump into Kamala Harris's career. Because they're touting, just keep in mind, guys, 2-3 months before Biden pulled out, the media was saying how weak of a VP candidate she was and how Biden should remove her from the ticket. They were floating the idea in the media of removing Kamala Harris from the ticket because she was so weak and inept. The media, the same media today that is telling you, oh, she's an amazing person. Oh, she's an amazing transformational candidate. It's garbage. Let me talk about her career for a second. What has Kamala Harris done prior to bringing her failure to Washington, D.C.? She's been a lifelong politician, guys. She's been a lifelong influence peddler. She was a California DA for several years, then eventually became the AG. But at every level of that, she failed. There are stories, and they won't let them out there in the mass media because if they did, it would just destroy her overnight. It wouldn't even be a contest. But she failed at every level. There was report after report of people who've worked with her, worked alongside her, campaigned against her, that say she's fake. There's no substance to her. She's not even that hard of a worker. That she has been trying to skate by on influence peddling her entire career. And I won't even get into the dark side of some of that peddling she influenced. She over-criminalized the black community in California. Wouldn't work to release prisoners, mostly black men, when the Supreme Court came out and said, hey, you need to do this because there is an overpopulation in the prisons in California and it's inhumane. And she still wanted to keep people in prison, but yet she's going to tout criminal justice reform. Like her only leg to stand on in any of this, her experience is that she was a prosecutor, but she failed at every level of being a prosecutor, being a DA, being an AG. She jailed parents because of truancy, made it a whole big thing, and then bragged about the power of her pen. And just with the swipe of a pen, she could end somebody's life, career, put them in jail, help them lose their job, punish them. She put parents in jail. One woman had a child with disabilities, and that child with disabilities, and coming from somebody with a child with disabilities, like there are a lot of visits to the hospital. There are a lot of doctor's appointments. And when I heard this story of this woman who she put in prison because her daughter with disabilities had to stay in the hospital for a few days to deal with some of those disabilities, and they put her in jail, that was Kamala. Kamala did that. That's her record. And she's bragging about failing up. Zero leadership experience. When she was in the Senate for the 2 years she happened to hang out in there. Let's just go through some of these stats of Kamala in the Senate, right? Because, she was transformational senator. Let's just look at it. Oh, and they even put a warning sign on this that higher or lower numbers below and about these legislators don't necessarily mean they're worse or less effective at governing or legislating. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So let's get into some of these stats right here. Ranked most politically left in the Senate for Democrats. This was just 3.5 years ago, guys. Okay, 3.5 years ago, Kamala Harris was ranked as the top politically left, all the way to the left of. So when you hear left of Bernie Sanders, that was Kamala Harris in the Senate 3.5 years ago. How quick we forget. But why do we quit? Because the media's cover up. That's why you can't keep a thought in your head longer than 3 days, because they constantly bombard you with news stories, and that's part of their cover up. But she was ranked the farthest left. She wrote the fewest laws compared to Senate sophomores. She only introduced one bill that ever became a law. Got, let me see here. That's most sponsor. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got to scroll down because I have us on a list. Got the most co-sponsors of bills. Okay, so she went out and networked. That's what that means. Got their bills out of committee least often. She got her bills out of committee least often. She was tied with one other senator for least often getting her bills out of committee. Held the fewest committee positions, but she's so experienced, America. Her Senate time was like pivotal in her experience for America, but she served in 0 committees positions. She was second most absent in votes compared to all senators. Harris missed 55.1% of votes while she was a senator. She ranked second top leader to compared to Senate sophomores. So she networked, but she didn't vote. She didn't get bills out of committee. She didn't serve on a committee. That's Kamala Harris's experience in the Senate. So she has 0 leadership. She's one of the worst senators prior to becoming the VP pick. And she only became the VP pick because Biden got put in a corner on the campaign trail and said, I will guarantee I will have a woman of color as my VP pick. He didn't even like her. She didn't even like him. She called him a racist, which he is, on the campaign trail. Party of hypocrites. Party of hypocrites. And as VP, all Harris has done is help usher in this record inflation, record levels of consumer debt and spending because prices are so damn high. Record crime, when they said it was down, they had to revise it back up. Record illegal immigration, slow to no job growth because this GDP number will come down. It will be revised. We've done triple the imports into this country than we've exported, unlike Trump when he exported almost just as much as we imported. High interest rates, global conflict. It goes on and on and on. And you have Kamala Harris out there saying, well, you can't even use my VP experience because I was just VP. I didn't really have any control or say anything. That's her attempt at distancing herself from Biden and all this garbage that they have perpetrated on the American people. But then she says she's the most qualified, and you argue the same points that she is the most qualified person to run. Party of hypocrites. Let's contrast that with Trump. Before he came into office, he built multiple businesses. Some failed, yes, but he tried diligently to improve every community he was in, while Kamala was out destroying communities and community members in California. Trump built amazing buildings and businesses, employed thousands of people over the years, and helped hundreds of friends, acquaintances, and sometimes strangers create and build their own businesses. Everyone loved Trump before 2015. Democrats, celebrities. His show, The Apprentice on NBC, was one of the most popular shows of the turn of the century. NBC begged him to keep extending that contract, but he had a different plan. His plan was to run for president because he kept seeing this American dream whittle away. And they went after him with a full court press of suppression. The whole establishment flipped their ever-loving soft brains over the fact that Donald Trump may come in and actually upend the apple cart, that he may flip the whole thing over. They didn't even take his candidacy serious. They loved him, they laughed at him, then they hated him. And if you guys remember back, that's how it went. Just go back and look at his episode on The View in 2015 with Whoopi Goldberg kissing his ass. Because they were friends. They were all friends. Everybody liked Trump. Then they laughed at him and said, he'll never make it out of the primaries because he wasn't supposed to. Because the system and the establishment, this two-party system that is an illusion of choice, was going to guarantee he never made it out of the primary. But a funny thing happened. The American people wanted something different, and he did. He made it out of the primary. So they went from loving him and laughing to hating him. Because they know one of the biggest and greatest tools in mental manipulation is hate. It's hate, hate, and more hate. Make people feel desperate as you can, and then fuel them with hate. They'll believe anything you tell them. The party of hypocrisy. But Trump made it because the American people were tired of the bullshit. We were tired of the American dream being sold out overseas, watching our jobs go overseas, watching our government spend record levels of money that we have to put our names on the IOUs, sending our brothers and sisters to die by the thousands in endless wars for 20 years. I graduated high school in the year 2000, and by 2001, we went to war in Afghanistan. I had spent 20 years in the military and never knew a time without conflict. 20 years. And the American people were tired. We're tired of the bullshit, of sending people to DC to represent our will, only to watch them represent their own over and over and over again, and get served every 2 to 4 years with platitudes, sound bites, and campaign slogans. Bullshit. And we were tired. The Black community used and abused by the Democrat Party, platitudes and promises, but they've had 60 years they've been working to solve the problems in the Black community, and they've done nothing. And that is why you're seeing record numbers of Black Americans voting for Trump, because they are tired of the bullshit. We were tired, so we were thirsting for something new. We needed an outsider. We needed somebody who didn't care about politics, but cared about the American people, and we voted Trump. They didn't think it would happen, and when they went from hating him, trying to prevent him from ever reaching the White House, and he did, it was a full court press to make sure it never happened again, and nothing in his presidency ever became successful, because, guys, their true power comes in keeping you oppressed. It is what it is. But Trump ushered in less regulation. He increased real wages, kept us out of foreign conflicts for the first time in 20 years. And my generation fought those conflicts for 20 years. He negotiated for peace with our adversaries so that we wouldn't get into global conflict. He gave us a growth economy. He genuinely helped the minority community, specifically the Black and Hispanic communities of America. He fully funded historically Black colleges and universities. He ushered in criminal justice reform that got people out of jail that should be out of jail and at home with their families. He gave us success. He gave us the ability to depend on our own means of getting things done. He made us independent instead of dependent on the government. And that's all the party of hypocrisy wants. Because if you don't need them, you realize how irrelevant they are. And when somebody or a group or a party becomes irrelevant, you no longer vote for them. But Trump ushered in some of the greatest times in America. And the irony of it is most of you, your most prosperous moments of time were when Trump was in office and you turned your back on him and voted for Biden in 2020. And I know, because I've talked to you guys out there, and I know you did it. You've admitted it's the biggest mistake you've ever made, and you're not making that mistake again this year. And God bless you. In 2015, middle America, hardworking America, creative America, we're clamoring for the outsider Donald Trump. We got it because we are so sick of the government. And this experiment over the last 3.5 years has reminded us how sick and tired we really were of that government. The establishment told you to hate him, yet he found support anyway. The only people crying, complaining, bitching, and moaning for the 4 years of Donald Trump's presidency was the media, was the left and the Democrats, kicking and screaming, throwing adult temper tantrums the whole way, while the rest of us were prospering, getting more freedoms because he provided less regulation. He was trying to give us back our civil liberties and a path to live the American dream. And the whole time they were kicking and screaming and complaining because they just didn't get the toy they wanted. And you know what I'm talking about. They peppered us with nonsense of Russia collusion and a horrible quid pro quo phone call from Ukraine. Nonsense, crazy, 2 impeachments. And the last 3 years of just lawfare and frivolous prosecutions, which they accuse Trump of doing. Party of hypocrisy, elitism, and condescension on display. Guys, one candidate will get us back to peace and prosperity. The other will lead us further into the mess we have right now. Kamala has done nothing for this country but leech off of its amazing citizens for years in the public sector. Trump had power before he became president in 2016. He was already successful. He didn't come to DC to gain his wealth. He brought his wealth to DC. Trump had power before he became president. That is why they'd hate him, because they hate what they can't control. It is why they hate Trump supporters. It is why they tell you they're Nazis and fascists, which I don't even think they can define what a fascist is anymore, because they're that ridiculous. They're not the party of unity and hope. They're the party of hate and division. And they show you that every single day. The American people are smarter than this, and I believe they will make the right choice. I believe in the American people to make the right choice, but I believe this choice is clear. I think over the next several days and on Tuesday, the American people are going to speak loudly. They will, with a unified voice, tell the left, we are done with your manipulation. We are done with your narcissism. We're done with your condescension, your elitism. We are done with you trying to keep us suppressed, censored, broke, and sick. We're done with it. We will speak loudly with a unified voice that we are sending Donald Trump, not because we all agree with how he handles every single situation, but because we rebuke you. We rebuke you. And taking out the garbage is a messy job. So we are sending in the cleaner. We are sending in the cleaner to clean this up, the garbage man. And sometimes it takes a messy person who cares for you to clean up the mess. So, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, all you bureaucrats and all these agencies that don't give a crap about the American people, and you journalists out there who have knowingly lied to the American people, pack your bags. Pack your bags. Because on Tuesday, we, the American people, are sending Donald Trump to Washington, D.C. And with a loud, unified voice, we will be telling you, how we, the people, are totally ready to be completely unburdened by what has been. Let's get it done, America. And guys, that's it for today's show. I love you. I hope we make the right decision on Tuesday. But until then, guys,